In the heart of Nigeria, a peaceful village nestled between the vast savanna and dense forest. Here, people lived with a deep connection to their traditions, their culture, and the land. It was the season of love, and the village was preparing for the annual Valentine festival, a celebration of love that brought everyone together. The festival was special, not just because of the flowers and music, but because of a tradition that had been passed down through generations, a tradition of finding love and being united through the celebration. There was a young man named Kenny Ojo, a bright, energetic 20-year-old boy who is known for his charming smile and quick wit. He's a dreamer and believes in love with all his heart. Kenny's curiosity about the world outside the village makes him eager to experience new things. He is always optimistic and works with his family in the village farm. Also there was a lady called Amara Obi, a 19-year-old girl from a neighboring village, graceful and quiet but strong in her own way. Amara is smart, thoughtful, and has a heart full of kindness. She recently moved to Kenny's village after her parents decided to live there, and it was there that Kenny first met her. Chijioke, Kenny's best friend, who is a bit of a jokester. He is always there to offer support, even though he's not the most serious when it comes to matters of the heart. He loves the Valentine festival and its festivities but often teases Kenny about his romantic interest. Ngozi, Amara's best friend and confidant, who has been through many heartbreaks but still believes in true love. Ngozi helps Amara understand the complex emotions of love and friendship. Kenny sat on the grassy hill, watching the sun dip low behind the trees. The air was still, but his heart raced with excitement. It was Valentine's week, the most anticipated time of the year in the village. For Kenny, Valentine's Day meant more than just the celebrations, it meant love, the love he had been longing to share with someone special. Amara had moved to the village a few months ago, and since then, Kenny had found himself drawn to her quiet beauty. Every time their paths crossed, his heart skipped a beat. She had a mysterious aura about her, something he couldn't quite explain, but he knew he wanted to get closer to her. He watched her from a distance, hoping for the right moment to speak to her, to confess the feelings that were beginning to bloom inside him. As he sat there lost in thought, he heard a familiar voice calling his name. Kenny. Are you daydreaming again? Chijioke laughed, running up the hill with his usual carefree attitude. Kenny smiled, pushing the thoughts of Amara aside. I was just thinking about something, that's all. Chijioke plopped down beside him, his face full of mischief. Don't tell me you're thinking about Amara again. You've been acting weird ever since she moved here. Kenny blushed but quickly tried to hide it. I don't know what you're talking about. Chijioke nudged him. I'm just saying, you can't keep hiding behind that smile of yours. It's Valentine's Day, Kenny. This is the perfect time to make your move. Kenny shook his head. I don't know. I'm not sure if she feels the same way. What if she doesn't even like me? Then you never know if you don't try, Chijioke said, standing up and brushing the grass off his shorts. Anyway, I'm off to help with the festival preparations. You should come too. Who knows? Maybe you'll find your courage there. Kenny stood up slowly, his mind still racing. The idea of talking to Amara seemed both exciting and terrifying at the same time. He hadn't felt this way in a long time. It was as if Valentine's Day had a special power over him, pulling him toward her. The village square was a flurry of activity as the festival preparations began in earnest. The air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers and the sound of laughter. Young and old alike worked together to set up decorations, organize games, and prepare delicious food. The elders of the village were busy discussing the traditions of the festival, while the children eagerly ran around, excited for the festivities to begin. Kenny wandered through the square, his eyes searching for Amara. He hadn't seen her yet today, and his heart felt heavy with anticipation. The festival was a big deal, and he knew this would be the perfect chance to finally speak to her. Suddenly, he spotted her near the flower store, talking to Ngozi. She looked radiant, her dark hair cascading down her shoulders, her face lit up with a smile as she held a bouquet of flowers. Kenny couldn't help but stare, mesmerized by her presence. His feet moved on their own, carrying him closer to her, but before he could say anything, Chijioke appeared at his side again, nudging him playfully. Go on, Kenny. Don't just stand there like a fool, Chijioke whispered. Kenny gulped and took a deep breath. He could do this. He had to. This was his moment. Amara, he called, his voice a little shaky. She turned around, her eyes meeting his, and for a brief moment, time seemed to slow down. There was something in her gaze, a warmth that made his heart race even faster. She smiled, and that was all it took for Kenny to feel his nerves melt away. Hey, Kenny. How are you? Amara asked, her voice soft and inviting. I'm good. I mean, I'm great, he said, mentally kicking himself for sounding so nervous. I wanted to ask you something. Ngozi, sensing the moment, gave Amara a knowing look and smiled as she walked away to give them some space. Amara raised an eyebrow, curious. What's on your mind? Kenny took a deep breath, his heart beating in his ears. I was wondering if you'd like to join me for the Valentine's festival dance tonight. Amara's face lit up, and Kenny could see the surprise and happiness in her eyes. I'd love to, she replied. I've heard it's the highlight of the festival. Kenny's heart soared. Great. I'll be there, waiting for you. As Amara turned to leave, Kenny stood there, barely able to believe what had just happened. He had asked her out, and she had said yes. The thought that tonight might change everything filled him with a mix of excitement and fear. The sun began to set, casting a warm orange glow over the village as the excitement for the Valentine festival reached its peak. Kenny stood in front of his family's home, pacing back and forth. He had put on his best clothes for the occasion, a simple but neat shirt and trousers, carefully chosen to look presentable but not too flashy. His heart thudded in his chest as the time for the dance drew closer. Chijioke appeared beside him, grinning from ear to ear. You look like you're about to run away to the moon, not go to a dance. Kenny shot him a nervous smile. I don't know what to expect. What if I mess up? Chijioke laughed. Kenny, you've got this. Just be yourself. She said yes, didn't she? Kenny nodded, feeling a little more confident but still overwhelmed by the thought of the night ahead. Yeah, but this isn't just any dance. It's Valentine's. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I look foolish? You won't, Chijioke said, slapping him on the back. Now, stop worrying and go. I'll see you there. Kenny watched as his friend disappeared into the crowd, leaving him alone with his thoughts. He took a deep breath and made his way toward the village square. The closer he got, the more the excitement seemed to buzz in the air, as if the entire village was holding its breath, waiting for the magic of Valentine's Day to unfold. The village square had transformed into a scene of pure enchantment. Colorful lights hung from the trees, casting a soft glow over the people gathered around. Music played from the makeshift stage, and people danced in the open space, their laughter ringing out through the night air. Stalls lined the perimeter of the square, offering treats and trinkets to the festival goers. Kenny's eyes scanned the crowd, searching for Amara. He felt like he might explode with anticipation, his eyes darting from one person to the next. His heart skipped a beat when he finally spotted her. She was standing near the edge of the dance floor, talking to Ngozi, and she looked absolutely stunning. Amara's dress shimmered under the lights, simple but elegant, with delicate patterns that seemed to dance in the night. Her hair was pulled back in a soft braid, and she had a gentle smile on her face. When she saw Kenny, her eyes brightened, and she waved to him. Kenny's legs moved before he could stop them, and soon he was standing in front of her, his heart racing. Hey, he said, his voice coming out a little softer than he had intended. You look amazing. Amara smiled warmly, her cheeks flushing with a soft pink hue. Thank you. You don't look so bad yourself. Kenny felt his nerves ease just a little. I'm glad you could make it. I've been looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to it too, Amara replied. It's a special night, isn't it? Before Kenny could respond, the music changed, and the dance floor seemed to come alive. People began pairing up, and the atmosphere shifted, becoming more festive. Kenny glanced at Amara, who gave him a gentle nod, silently asking if he wanted to dance. Kenny's heart skipped another beat. He had always thought he wasn't a great dancer, but tonight, with Amara by his side, he felt like he could do anything. He extended his hand to her, and she placed her delicate fingers in his, her touch sending a warmth through him. They stepped onto the dance floor together, the music enveloping them. At first, Kenny stumbled a little, unsure of the steps, but Amara's calm presence grounded him. She guided him gently, her movements graceful and smooth. As they danced, he forgot about the world around them. It was just the two of them, moving together, lost in the rhythm of the music. For the first time that night, Kenny felt completely at peace. As the night wore on, the dance floor became more crowded, but Kenny and Amara remained by each other's side. They laughed and talked between dances, sharing stories about their childhoods, their dreams, and their hopes for the future. The bond between them grew stronger with every passing moment. "I never thought I'd find myself dancing like this," Kenny said, his voice filled with wonder. "It feels so right." Amara smiled, her eyes twinkling in the light. "I'm glad you asked me. I think I've been waiting for someone to dance with like this." Kenny's heart fluttered at her words. He could feel the chemistry between them, the connection that seemed to transcend everything else. It was as though the whole village had faded away, leaving just the two of them, caught in the magic of the moment. As the night progressed, Kenny found himself unable to take his eyes off her. There was a warmth in her gaze that made him feel safe, understood. He could see that she was special, more than just a beautiful face. She was someone who made him feel like he mattered. Amara seemed to sense his thoughts, and she smiled softly, placing her hand on his arm. "Kenny, there's something I've been wanting to tell you." Kenny looked at her, his heart racing. "What is it?" Amara hesitated for a moment, then spoke softly, her voice full of sincerity. I think I've been waiting for you too. I've been waiting for someone to show me that love is real, that it's not just a story. And tonight, with you, I finally believe it." Kenny's breath caught in his throat. He had never expected this, but in that moment, it felt as though the universe had aligned to bring them together. I feel the same way," Kenny said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know what love was until I met you, Amara. But now, I think I understand." The music played on in the background, but for Kenny and Amara, the world had slowed down. They stood there, their hearts in perfect harmony, knowing that this night, this moment, was just the beginning of something truly beautiful. The dance continued late into the night, but as the clock struck midnight, the village square began to empty. People drifted back to their homes, leaving behind only the sound of the crickets and the distant hum of the wind. Amara and Kenny, however, lingered by the edge of the dance floor, not yet ready to say goodbye. They stood in comfortable silence, looking up at the starry sky above them. The air was cool now, but there was a warmth between them that couldn't be extinguished. "I don't want this night to end," Amara said quietly. "Me neither," Kenny replied. "But I think it's just the beginning for us." Amara smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "I think so too." And in that moment, under the twinkling stars, with the village still buzzing faintly in the distance, Kenny and Amara knew that love had truly found its way into their hearts. A love born on the night of the Valentine festival, and one that would last for many years to come. The days following the Valentine festival were filled with a warm glow. The village buzzed with excitement as people spoke of the wonderful evening and the love that filled the air. But for Kenny and Amara, it felt as though time had slowed down. They spent every moment they could together, talking, laughing, and dreaming about their futures. Kenny couldn't stop thinking about the night they had shared. Every time he saw Amara, his heart swelled with happiness. She had become the center of his world, and he found himself eagerly awaiting their next moment together. One afternoon, as they sat under the large tree by the village's well, Kenny looked at Amara, his thoughts racing. She was so beautiful, so kind, and everything about her seemed perfect to him. But there was something in her eyes that told him there was more to her story, something she hadn't yet shared. "Amara, He began, his voice soft and tentative. I've been thinking a lot about us, about what's happening between us. And I just want you to know how much you mean to me. You've brought so much light into my life. Amara smiled, her eyes reflecting a deep emotion. You mean the world to me too, Kenny, she said, her voice almost a whisper. But there's something I've been meaning to tell you. Something from my past. I didn't want it to get in the way of what we have, but I think it's time you know. Kenny's heart raced, his mind already spinning with possibilities. You can tell me anything, Amara. I'm here for you. She hesitated for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Before I moved here, I was in love once. I thought that he was the one. We had so many dreams together. But one day, he left. No explanation. No goodbye. And I was left heartbroken. I couldn't understand why, and it took me a long time to heal. That's why when I came here, I wasn't sure if I could open my heart again. Kenny reached out, gently taking her hand in his. Amara, I'm so sorry. I can't imagine how painful that must have been for you. She nodded, the weight of her words heavy in the air. It was. And that's why I've been so afraid to let myself feel this way. To let myself feel the kind of love I had before. But when I'm with you, Kenny, everything feels different. I'm not scared anymore. Kenny's heart ached for her, but it also filled with hope. Amara, I promise you, I'm not going anywhere. I'll never leave you. What we have is real, and I'll cherish it with all my heart. She looked into his eyes, and in that moment, Kenny knew that their love was stronger than any fear or doubt. They had both faced their own struggles, their own heartaches, but together, they were unstoppable. As the days passed, their bond grew deeper. They spent more time together, and the villagers noticed the change in them. They saw the joy in Kenny's smile, the softness in Amara's eyes. It was clear that their love had blossomed into something beautiful and undeniable. One evening, as the sun began to set and painted the sky with shades of pink and purple, Amara and Kenny sat on the porch of her family's home. The evening was calm, and the air was filled with the gentle rustling of leaves in the trees. Kenny turned to Amara, his face serious now. Amara, there's something I've been wanting to ask you. Something important. She looked at him, her heart already beginning to race with curiosity. What is it? Kenny took a deep breath, his eyes never leaving hers. Will you be my Valentine forever? I don't just mean for this year, or for the festival. I mean forever. I want to build a life with you, Amara. I want to be there for you through everything, good and bad. Will you marry me? Amara's breath caught in her throat. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. Her eyes searched his, as if trying to find the truth in his words. She had never imagined that she would be asked this question, not after the pain of her past. But now, with Kenny standing before her, asking her for forever, she knew her answer. Yes, she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. Yes, Kenny. I'll marry you. I love you. Kenny's heart soared, and a wide smile spread across his face. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, simple ring. It wasn't fancy, but it was perfect. He slipped it onto her finger, sealing their promise with a gesture that meant everything. From that moment on, the village seemed to hold its breath. The young couple, once uncertain and hesitant, had found the love they had both been searching for. They were ready to face the future together, hand in hand. The days that followed were a whirlwind of planning and preparation. The village came together to help Kenny and Amara prepare for their wedding. The elders of the village shared their wisdom, offering blessings and advice. The young people of the village pitched in, decorating the church and preparing the feast. It was a celebration not just of the love between two people, but of the unity that bound everyone together. On the day of the wedding, the village was alive with joy. The air was filled with music, laughter, and the sweet scent of flowers. Amara, dressed in a simple but elegant white gown, stood at the altar, her heart beating with anticipation. She looked down the aisle, and there, waiting for her, was Kenny, his face radiant with love and happiness. As she walked toward him, their eyes locked, and the world seemed to disappear. The villagers, who had gathered to witness the union, watched with smiles on their faces, knowing that they were witnessing something truly special. When they reached the altar, Kenny took Amara's hands in his voice full of emotion as he spoke the vows he had written from the heart. Amara, I promise to love you, to cherish you, and to stand by your side through every moment of our lives. You are my heart, my soul, my everything. I will never leave you. Tears filled Amara's eyes as she spoke her vows in return. Kenny, I promise to love you with all that I am. I will be your strength when you need it, and your comfort when you are weary. I will walk beside you, hand in hand, forever. The priest smiled and pronounced them husband and wife. The crowd erupted in cheers as Kenny and Amara shared their first kiss as a married couple. It was a kiss that sealed their love, their commitment to one another, and the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. Years passed, but the love between Kenny and Amara never wavered. They built a life together, starting a family and continuing to live in the village they both loved. They faced challenges, as all couples do, but they faced them together, their bond stronger than ever. On the anniversary of their wedding day, as they sat under the same tree where they had first confessed their love, Kenny turned to Amara, his eyes filled with gratitude. Do you remember the first time we danced together? He asked softly. Amara smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. I'll never forget it. That was the night I knew I had found my forever. Kenny kissed her forehead gently. And I'll never forget it either. You were always my Valentine, Amara. Always. Together, they looked out at the village, the sun setting behind the trees, and they knew that no matter what the future held, their love would endure, forever strong and unshakable. As the sun set behind the village, casting long shadows on the earth, Kenny and Amara sat together, hand in hand, ready to face their future together. Their journey was a testament to love, patience, and commitment. And as their story continued, they knew that love wasn't just a fairy tale, but something real, something they had built with every laugh, every tear, and every promise made. If you've enjoyed this story of love and hope, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon so you never miss out on any new stories we share. Love is powerful, and it's always worth sharing. Thank you for watching, and we hope this tale has inspired you to believe in the magic of love, no matter the obstacles. Just like Kenny and Amara, we all have a special love story waiting to unfold. Remember, love is patient, love is kind. Never rush or force it, true love will come when the time is right. Trust in yourself, trust in others, and most importantly, trust in the journey. Life's challenges may seem big, but with love, everything becomes easier to face. Thank you again for being a part of our wonderful community of storytelling. Share your own stories of love and friendship in the comments below, and let's continue to spread positivity and light together.